The NFL is back and week one has already come and gone, so today I'm going to be taking a first look here at the week two NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. Now, for those of you who are new to my first look video, what I like to do here is go position by position, talking about the plays that are sticking out to me here early on in the week. Primarily cash games, but I'll touch on a little tournament stuff as well. And then once we've gone position by position, starting with quarterbacks and making our way all the way through defenses, we'll wrap up the video by putting together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. With that being said, let's dive into these quarterbacks. And as I was doing my initial look here at the quarterback position, I do think there's some intriguing plays from the tournament side of things, but from a cash game perspective, there were really only two quarterbacks that were sticking out to me. The first being Josh Allen here playing at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, unfortunately, as I do this video here, DraftKings has not updated the game logs on these player cards yet. I imagine they'll do that later this week, so I can't show you the stats here from week one. Actually, as I record this here right now, Josh Allen is currently playing against the New York Jets, so I wouldn't have got his game log either way, but I look at the matchup here against the Raiders, who really don't have that great of a defense. Buffalo playing at home. He's got that safe floor with his rushing upside, and he's got a great ceiling, one of the best at his position. That's the play that sticks out to me here right away. Now, the other cash game quarterback that was sticking out to me here right away was Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love the receiving core that he's got there right now with Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, another year in this program with Doug Peterson. There's just a lot to like about this Jags offense in general, plus playing the Kansas City Chiefs here at home. There's a lot of shootout potential there, especially if Travis Kelce is back. This could be a very high-scoring game. At $6,700, we would need about 20.1 DraftKings points in order for him to meet 3x value. If you guys didn't watch my cash games video from last week, I mentioned there I'm always shooting for 3x when it comes to my cash lineup, or 150 DraftKings points. More times than not, if you get to there, you're going to be in the money. So those are the two cash game quarterbacks that were sticking out to me. Again, definitely some intrigue here on the tournament side of things. I think Justin Herbert is really interesting. Joe Burrow, looking for a bounce back out of him. Kind of scroll down here a little bit into the 6K range. Daniel Jones, that was one guy that I said, hey, maybe that could be a cash game play against the Arizona Cardinals, and then I think back to last night's game against the Cowboys and go, ooh, maybe I don't want to touch the Giants quite yet, at least when it comes to my cash lineup. Really the same thing here with Geno Smith, just didn't show up to play in week one, got beat up by the Los Angeles Rams. I didn't see that coming. Playing in Detroit here, definitely some shootout potential. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go there and cash, but again, this is a first look here early in the week. Geno Smith at $5,900 playing Detroit indoors. Maybe a tournament play there. Outside of that, nothing really catching my eye or nothing that I really loved necessarily. Jordan Love could be an interesting tournament play there. Sam Howell, I don't want to go into Denver and play him in cash, although he did meet value last week. And then Anthony Richardson, that could be someone that we play in cash this year, but got a knee injury in week one. Sounds like he's going to be okay, but again, probably avoiding that on the cash side of things, at least as of Monday here when I record this. But let's move along here to the running backs. I had five that caught my eye right away. First being Christian McCaffrey. I probably don't need to say much about this guy. I had a little cause for concern playing in Pittsburgh last week. I thought, hey, that's a tough defense to begin with. Playing in Pittsburgh is a tough environment to play at. Brock Purdy coming back from the injury. Look, I doubted it a little bit, but I was absolutely wrong about that. I'll go right back to CMC here. $8,900. Yeah, we're going to need 26.7 DraftKings points in order for him to meet that 3x value, but by all means, I think he can get there against that Rams team, especially considering it is a division rival. Now, again, here, a lot of intrigue at the running back position from a tournament perspective. I think Saquon looks nice heading into Arizona, looking for a bounce back there. Tony Pollard looked awesome in week one against the Giants, playing the Jets at home. Aaron Rodgers got hurt tonight, and maybe they're playing a little slow ball, and we want to get away from that. Again, an early look here. Derrick Henry looks really interesting on the tournament side of things. Again, it's Monday night here, but rolling out a Charger stack with Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, running it back with Derrick Henry. Maybe let's do that here as the tournament build later on in the video. We'll go with that. But from a cash game perspective here, the next guy that really stuck out to me was going to be Kenneth Walker of the Seattle Seahawks. Again, heading into Detroit Detroit here playing indoors. You can see here he rushed 12 times in week 1, but what I really like is he had 5 targets and caught 4 of those passes, and you see the guys behind him there, DJ Dallas, Charbonnet, they only had 5 combined carries outside of the 12 that Walker had. So he's the clear number 1 there. Again, looking for a bounce back out of Seattle. I think they can do that against that Detroit defense. Yes, Detroit won week 1 in Kansas City. I'm well aware of it, but that defense really didn't look fantastic in my opinion. So at $5,800, I kind of like that for Kenneth Walker. And then 3 more guys that stuck out to me in terms of cash value plays. We're going to scroll down here to the mid to low 5K range and even upper 4K range. First being Dameon Pierce of the Houston Texans. Tough matchup week 1 heading into Baltimore, especially with a rookie quarterback. Should be a much better matchup here at home this week against the Indianapolis Colts. Travis Etienne ran well against them last week. I think he had 77 rushing yards on 18 carries, scored a touchdown, was involved in the passing game as well. Just not many paths you saw last week for Houston having success in Baltimore, especially with CJ Stroud as a rookie quarterback, playing his first ever NFL game. But this could be a little bounce back spot for them. I'm not suggesting they're going to go out and score 4+ touchdowns, but I think Dameon Pierce could have a decent day, especially if they keep giving him volume as the number 1 running back. Next guy that I got here then in terms of cash is Rachaad White. Talked about him last week, kind of disappointed in Minnesota, but he's clearly the number 1 running back in this offense. You can see here, ran for 17 times, brought in both of his targets. He's going to be involved in the passing game more weeks than not, especially if the Bucs are playing from behind, but they just happen to beat Minnesota in week 1. At $5,500, we need 16.5 DraftKings points in order for him to meet 3x value. I think he could do that against that Chicago defense. And then one other guy that stuck out to me here actually in the 4K range is Zach Moss. Now, he didn't play in week 1. I suspect he will play in week 2 though, and he should be the number 1 running back in this offense for starters. Deion Jackson, who was supposed to be the number 1 running back, fumbled twice last week. Evan Hall, who was RB number 2 in the offense, ended up getting hurt, and he looks like he could miss some time with a knee injury. If Zach Moss is back here this week at $4,700, he's a guy who could get 12 to 15 touches in a decent matchup against Houston. So yeah, I don't mind that either. Now folks, before we dive into the wide receivers here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Help us get SlyDawg Sports to 4,000 subscribers. For those of you who weren't aware, I'm also running a Discord channel as well with almost 600 people in there talking a number of different DFS sports with a real focus around Prize Picks too. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below. I also have a DraftKings league that I'm running. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below. And the last thing here with SlyDawg Sports, for those of you who are looking for some entertainment, we brought a brand new section to the channel here this past summer called Mulligan Masters. Here's a little preview to that.
Hey, look up.
All right, inside Kev. It's always the goal.
No excuses now. Nope. I already said it.
It's all you, baby. Hey, don't forget, Reed, if we tie on 18, we're scrapping. So, mucho gusto here today, though.
Have a little strategy going here.
Oh, yeah.
So there you have it, everyone. We got NFL DFS, NHL DFS, and Mulligan Masters here on SlyDawg Sports. Like I said, if you can help us out to get to 4,000 subs, I would greatly appreciate that. Now let's dive into these wide receivers. And I had 8 wide receivers that stuck out to me here initially. Obviously some great names right at the top. Diggs, Chase, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, CD, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, but Calvin Ridley here at $7,200. I don't know if he could have had a better week 1 with his new team here in the Jags after missing a whole season because he was gambling the year before. Good to see him back and getting targets. 11 targets in week 1, had 101 receiving yards, scored a touchdown. Look, again, a lot of shootout potential in my opinion there between the Jags and KC. I don't mind that at all, not only from a tournament but also a cash game perspective. I also think Keenan Allen is going to be cash game viable here this week against the Tennessee Titans. You know, I mentioned earlier I'm going to build a tournament lineup around that Chargers offense, run it back with Derrick Henry, but that's not to say I'm not going to consider them in cash, especially in that matchup against Tennessee. I want to highlight Mike Williams here as well at $5,700. I think both of those guys could be considered in cash. You know, I look at that defense for the Titans. They're going to be able to stop the run again this year, it looks like. One of the best run defenses all of last year, but they legitimately had one of the worst secondaries last year. We picked on them all year long. long when it came to opposing wide receivers. Now, after week 1 here and looking at that Saints offense, I know they didn't put up a bunch of points, but Chris Olave was open all day long. Looks like we're going to be picking on this Tennessee secondary once again this year. So I like both of those guys. And then I want to highlight another pair of wide receivers here quickly. I don't know if they're cash game viable quite yet with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I don't know if I can trust the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield quite yet when it comes to my cash lineup, but certainly some intrigue there from a tournament perspective, especially against Chicago. But look, if Mike Evans is going to get fed 10 targets per week by Mayfield at $6,200, he might just be a cash game consideration. Now, I also think in that game between the Chargers and Titans that DeAndre Hopkins could be a cash game play too. I certainly like the Derrick Henry route a little better, and even more so from a tournament perspective, but you can see here, D-Hop had 13 targets in week 1. Again, if you're going to be giving him that double-digit target volume week in and week out, I probably don't care who they're playing against. If the volume's there, I'm chasing that in cash. So at $6,700, a little more expensive than I would like, but again, if the volume's there, I'm cool with that. And then I got 4 wide receivers here in the 4 to 5K range. I'm going to go through them a little more quickly, but all guys I think offer some nice value in some decent matchups here this week. First being Brandon Ayuk. Look, I don't want to chase the massive game that he had last week. Caught all 8 of his targets, 129 receiving yards, scored 2 touchdowns. Probably not going to do that again here in week 2, but clearly a focal point in this 49ers offense. At $5,800 against the Rams, I certainly don't mind that. Scrolling down here just a little bit, again, I talked about Mike Williams earlier. We're going to get down here to the 5K range. He was bumped up a full $1,000. Zay Flowers here brought in 9 of his 10 targets for 78 yards. Looked like the number 1 wide receiver in that Baltimore offense. You know, a small sample size with just 1 game, but it really seems like he's going to be a focal point for the Ravens here. And then 2 more guys here down in the 4K range. First is going to be Puka Nacua. Obviously kind of filled in for that Cooper Kupp role and made the most of it in week 1. 15 targets, 10 receptions. A lot tougher matchup here this week against the 49ers, but at $4,900, again, the volume speaks. 15 targets is hard to ignore. And then directly below him, Nico Collins here at $4,800 quietly had 11 targets in week 1 with 80 receiving yards. Against Indianapolis, CJ Stroud should be a little more comfortable at home. I don't mind that either. Now, I'm not going to go below the 4K range here for my first look. I do tend to find some value plays later on in the week, so make sure you stay tuned for my videos on Friday and Saturday where I break down my final cash plays and tournament plays. We then got the tight ends here, and as much as I'd love to play Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews and Darren Waller in my cash lineup, I typically don't spend up at this position. Again, from a tournament perspective, I'm all about that, but cash game, not really my cup of tea. I tend to find some value here if I can. Unless Travis Kelce's priced at $6,000, then yeah, we're probably just jamming him in. The first guy that stuck out to me here then was Sam Laporta of the Detroit Lions. Now look, notoriously tight ends kind of come out slow during their rookie year, but 5 targets in week 1 against the Chiefs, 39 receiving yards, that's essentially 9 DraftKings points. And I certainly don't mind that, especially considering they're back at home here this week against Seattle. Definitely some shootout potential there. And then scrolling down here at $3,200, Griff, you just mentioned you don't play rookies, or rookies tend to struggle during their first year. Yeah, they do, but Luke Musgrave here at $3,200, he got 3 of his 4 targets for 50 yards, and I don't mind that matchup against ATL. So again, it's early on in the week here, but the 2 rookie tight ends were the ones that stuck out to me in terms of providing value. And then the last positional play here is the defenses. We'll keep this short and sweet. I typically don't spend up for defense in my cash lineup. I will do that in my tournament lineups from time to time though. And the defenses here on this slate just don't look all that good. There wasn't that clear standout value play like the Commanders last week. I know I talked about the Chargers quite a bit here, but I'm looking at the Titans at $2,400. I kind of don't mind that. Maybe the Jets in Dallas, I don't know. It's kind of a gross slate for defense. I'm just going to put the Titans for right now and build around that. But yeah, I'll do a deeper dive on the defenses as the week progresses. Maybe some value will pop up. All right, everyone. Now to wrap up this video, let's put together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. We'll start on the cash side of things here. I'm going to lock in Josh Allen at the quarterback position as well as Christian McCaffrey. But then we're going to need to find some value here. I know it's early in the week and we haven't gotten official word yet, but I do believe that Zach Moss is going to play. He was pretty much questionable to play last week, so I think he's going to be good to go here in week 2. Now, $5,200 per player left over. Not a lot of salary, but I really do want to get in Calvin Ridley here during this initial look, so I'm going to put him in now. And we do got some value at the wide receiver position here, so let's go down. I know he's probably not going to get 15 targets here again, but let's go with Puka. And then let's put in Nico Collins as well. 2 guys who got double-digit targets in week 1 in the 4K range. Certainly don't mind that. Now, it looks like I'm going to go down here. You know, I mentioned 2 guys in the 3K range to begin with at the tight end position. If I go with Laporta there, I got $5,300 left over. Looking at my initial list here, nothing popping out. So let's go down to Musgrave, actually. $6,000 left over. That's Mike Williams. So let's put in Mike Will there at the flex position. Now there's a number of different routes that we could go. I could even go with Kenneth Walker if I wanted to. Maybe even Chris Godwin if you do get convinced about the Buccaneers. But I'm going to put in Mike Will. I got $300 left over. Maybe I upgrade the defense there. Maybe one of these wide receivers or maybe even Zach Moss. But first initial look there. Obviously targeting a lot of guys who had a lot of volume in week 1. That doesn't always translate to week 2. But if it did, I'd obviously be very happy about that. So again, first initial look here, everyone. I'll have my final cash plays out this coming Friday. And then let's put together a first look tournament lineup here as well. Talked about it a little bit throughout today's video. We're going to go with an LAC stack here. So we'll put in Herbert with his top 2 wide receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. And then we're going to run it back there with the big dog and Derrick Henry. So it's a game stack right away. We're going with the Chargers stack, running it back with Derrick Henry. Now I want to do a little mini stack here as well. Talked about Kenneth Walker earlier in this game between the Seattle Seahawks and Detroit Lions. Definitely think there's some shootout potential there. Let's do a mini stack within that game. Kenneth Walker, run it back with Sam Laporta. Now I've talked about this Chiefs and Jags game quite a bit as well. One guy who might fly under the radar, and I don't know if he should, first being Christian Kirk, but even more so, Zay Jones here looked to be the number 2 wide receiver in the offense in week 1 at least. 7 targets, 5 of those he caught, 55 receiving yards and scored a touchdown. Certainly don't mind that. $4,200 left over per player. Let's go to the defense there. Let's put in this Cards defense. I know that team is going to be horrible this year, but Giants didn't look good either in week 1. $5,800 left over. Man, I wish I had enough to just put in Travis Kelce. What is he? What was he, like 6K, 7K range? Okay, $7,600. I definitely don't have enough to do that. What do we got here in the 5K range? Honestly, some decent flex options. We could go with Dameon Pierce here if we wanted to. Brandon Ayuk. Maybe you look for a big boom bust type of wide receiver play like Gabriel Davis. Let's go that. That Raiders secondary can be a little suspect from time to time. And I'd ideally stack him up with Josh Allen there, but certainly don't mind that. Basically what we're doing here, again, doing the game stack with the Chargers and Tennessee. Little mini stack there between Seattle and Detroit. Getting a little exposure to what could be a high-scoring game between the Chiefs and Jags. And then we just got Gabe Davis there as a one-off. Again, a number of different routes that we could have gone there, but that is a first-look tournament lineup, everyone. Again, I'll have my final tournament plays here out this Saturday once I've done my research here this week. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Help me get SlyDog Sports to 4,000 subs. In the meantime, everyone, I'm out of here.